It's not all doom and gloom for the Buffalo Sabres. That and more coming up. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sabres Edge podcast, brought to you by Nickel City Mafia. Thank you for being here on this January 9th, where we're currently in the middle of an Ottawa Senators game. So if you see me looking over at the screen, that's what I'm doing. They're currently up 4-0, so it's going well. We are about 12 minutes in the second period. So that's me if I'm getting distracted. What's probably happening? I'd like to address just a couple little housekeeping things first. As you can see, it's only me here today. TJ, he's busy. He's got young kids, so we are glad to have him when we can, but we're going to try and make the show more consistent. So if that means it's only me up here, that's what you're going to get. It might be a little bit of a different dynamic from what you're used to getting. Obviously, there's been always a second co-host, so that leads to a bit of back and forth, different sharing of opinions. But this gives me a great opportunity to be more engaged with you guys, the fans, because, hey, you can just derail me mid-sentence. I don't have to worry about a co-host interrupting them. So like this, Pete says, Sammy Saucy Mitts is handsome and a great chef. And I have to say, I fully agree with both of these statements. I mean, just look at me, dazzling individual. But yeah, we don't have another co-host today. Feel free to talk in chat. I'll try and be more engaging with you guys as a result. The other thing is, for just housekeeping, I tried last time to do a little bit of video review, and I think I'm going to try and see if I can incorporate that more into the streams. This stream, I'm probably going to wait until the intermission so that like the more in-depth stuff is done while you guys aren't watching a game. So it might lead to a kind of weird setup where I'm closing out the stream by going over like what's coming next week before and then like doing another segment afterwards. So like that's something that might be a little weird. I'll workshop it, but I do want to do some more film, and I think that the way that I've settled on that is player spotlights. So this week we are doing Rasmus Dahlin, and I'll explain in video why I think he's one of the best defensemen in the league and why many Buffalonian fans already know that to be true. So, all right. Recapping what we saw last week. Since we last saw you, we had an Avalanche game on that Thursday. So we went into overtime. It was 5-6 in favor of Avalanche after OT. That game was really tough because we got a good lead. Zucker got a hat trick, and we just kept losing our lead. We eventually end up blowing it, and it was one of those things that just felt inevitable. I think we were up 2 with a couple of minutes left, and they were pulling their goalie. We just couldn't get it into that empty net, and it just felt like maybe the world was collapsing in on us the way that we know that the Sabres will disappoint us, and alas, they ended up doing so. So that was a really frustrating result, I think, for many people, but that was the Avalanche game. And then a game against the Golden Knights on Saturday. If I remember correctly, I think this might have been a late game as well. I was not available at the time, so I did not catch too much of it, but we end up losing that one 3-1. From what I had seen, it wasn't really close. It seemed like we were getting heavily outplayed, so that's one of those ones where you just say, well, GG, go next. That's a tough result. Then on Monday, January 6th, we were up against the Capitals, and we win that game in a shootout, 4-3. So great result, especially when we needed points. We're chasing some teams right now. As you saw in the intro, it's not all doom and gloom. There is still a chance for the Buffalo Sabres right now. We'll get into that after the recaps, but 4-3 gave us some points, and it's not like we're chasing the Capitals necessarily, because they're, the last I checked, in front in their division, so we can afford to give them the overtime point. And then finally, we have the game that's going on currently. With 5 minutes left in the second period, it is 4-0 Buffalo. So let's hope that they can hold on to a lead for once. And maybe we'll get 4 points on a divisional rival who we're trying to chase right now. But anyway, it's not all doom and gloom. The topic of this video, the topic of this week, going into this week, the Sabres, or after the Capitals game, the Sabres found themselves only 6 points out from a playoff spot. That number has changed to now 7, but one of the teams that we're chasing, one of the teams we're behind, is the Senators. So we're getting if we win tonight, we close it out in regulation, we would be getting a 4-point swing on them, and we would be getting just 2 points in general. The team currently in a playoff spot, the final wild card, is the Columbus Blue Jackets, oddly enough. Again, we talked about this last week. It's not a very strong division. You look up and down and you see the race includes the Ottawa Senators at 41 points, the Canadiens at 41, the Red Wings at 40, the Blue Jackets at 42, and the Penguins at 42. These are all teams that had pretty slow starts, and we're not really having any expectations going into the year. Obviously, every year, the Senators, the Red Wings, the Sabres, there's just an expectation that surely one of them makes a jump, but at the end of the day, you're not really expecting much from any of them because it just keeps not happening. But we're seeing, probably statistically, one of these teams out of the East that's been in a playoff slide is likely going to get a playoff spot. Obviously, they could lose it to the Blue Jackets on the other side or the Penguins, but the Penguins are currently on a 4-game losing streak, and the Blue Jackets are outperforming what people believe they could do this year. So maybe they'll regress to what we expect from them, but maybe there's something to their run, and we have to be wary of that. But even if you can't get that final wild card spot, there are a couple teams close in division. We have 2 games in hand against the Boston Bruins, and they have 45 points. So that's a 10-point gap. But again, they've looked a lot weaker this year. If you can go on a run, then you're close to them. They've lost 5 in a row, so they're not looking too strong. They did pick up 2 overtime points in those 5 losses, but it's not a good look for them. They're definitely regressing. This is kind of what we expected from them maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and then all the way to this year where you're like, surely they've aged, and surely that this is the time that we see real regression, and now we're there. So maybe that's a team that you can chase. Maybe that's a team that gives up a wild card spot in the end, but obviously, you have to play the games, you have to win the games, and then we can talk more about that later. But even if you don't win the games, it's not all doom and gloom, because the Sabres' future, as tired as the saying is, it does look good. There's some good prospects coming up. Recently announced, they have Devin Levi and Isaac Rosian making it to the 8-0 Sabres really threw me off. I was looking at the score. It's 4-0. I'm like, did I miss something? Am I behind? I don't think that's the case. People are just constantly trying to mess with my train of thought, but I appreciate you being here, Thomas Miller. Welcome to the show. But yeah, I was saying Devin Levi, Isaac Rosian, they were named to the AHL All-Star teams. So congratulations to them. Devin Levi has been playing out of his mind recently. I can pull up the stats for you recently, but he, since going down to Rochester, I believe, has won Rah, let's go Sabres. Thank you, Simbel, for showing up, for talking in chat. And Thomas Miller says he's just manifesting a win. Not trying to throw me off my game, but again, appreciate you being here. Anyway, Devin Levi has played 14 games in Rochester and has a 219 goals against average and 914 save percentage. So he's looking pretty good. He's 11-2-1. So that's a lot of wins for him. He's getting consistent playing time. This is how we should have been developing him this whole time. Let him exceed at the level that he's playing at. He was not ready for the NHL. Let him go to the AHL. Let him excel, and then just go from there. He's put together a great streak. Maybe we see him up before the end of the season, but it's nice to see him doing well for himself and stringing together some wins down in Rochester. We got Let's Go Sabres. Thank you, Thomas, for being here. Longtime fan of the show, so we always appreciate seeing you around. But yeah, there are currently 2 minutes left in the second period, and unfortunately for Thomas Miller, we haven't scored any more goals. So we might get to the 8, but still 4-0. As for what is coming up, there have been a lot of rumors about the Sabres and potential trades. I've seen a lot of talk about should you get rid of Jason Zucker? Well, his value is really high. People think that maybe this should be a good opportunity to sell before the deadline, get some good assets back. They don't maybe think that we have as much of a chance. And to that, I say that Zucker has been a very productive player for us. We've talked year after year about you need to get veteran leadership into the lineup. You need to get a good locker room player who's just stabilizes the team and can play a role. And I don't think that we've hit on that any better than we have with Jason Zucker. You see in previous years, you have guys like Stahl. I can't even remember. I think it was Jordan Stahl, maybe, who we had on our team. It was Jordan or Eric. Maybe it was Eric, but that was a second ago. And by the time that we got him, he was just washed, and that team did not put anything together meaningful. We went out and we got a few veteran defensemen at times. We got Eric Johnson, and again, for us, he was just not good. I don't know why, when you finally got the thing that we've been talking about for the past 7 years, why you would trade him away, but people seem to think that maybe you can get some assets in a losing year. I am personally of the belief that we should be looking to re-sign him. I think that he's getting older now. He's 32. I don't think that you probably have to trade or spend too much money to keep him, even though he's having a career year. I think that other GMs recognize that this is a career year, and you're not going to overpay for a player who had their best year at age 32. So Thomas Miller thinks Zucker for David Savard and a pick. I don't know that I necessarily agree with that. I don't know that we need more defensemen right now. I think that currently our blue line is a little overcrowded, and I'm not sure that bringing in Savard is a major upgrade over some of those middle defensemen that we have, and I'm not sure that he, at the age that he's at, is really going to make a big difference for us. Plus, he's getting about the same amount of money, so it's not like you're freeing up anything there. So Pete says, too, bring back Vlad Sobotka, and we make the playoffs. We all know historically that having Vladimir Sobotka on our team just made a great improvement. Everyone rallied around that player. They were just making the line mates around them better. But actually, no. I appreciate the satire, though. If we're gonna bring back some tank commanders, we can also bring back Matt Molson. Yeah, I think that Vlad Sobotka is probably a great idea. Thank you for the suggestion. Another name that I've heard thrown around a lot around the entire league would be Elias Pettersson. The situation with the Canucks right now is that Elias Pettersson and JT Miller, two of their top two centers, don't seem to like each other at all. And maybe that feud is boiling over into the locker room and affecting their play. Elias Pettersson this year is on like a 130 point pace this year when JT Miller is out of the lineup, and like a 50 point pace this year when JT Miller is in the lineup. So maybe there's a little bit of validity to those claims. There's been some talk about, would you trade for Pettersson or Miller? And for me, the answer is Pettersson, if only because Miller has a no trade clause and the Sabres would almost certainly be on it. So it makes it hard. I know we've talked about taxes and palm trees and no trade clauses, making it hard to acquire players. And it's not often that a number one center shows up in trade rumors that they don't have any sort of trade protection. So you look at a player like Elias Pettersson, and that becomes incredibly enticing. The idea for the Canucks is they would maybe want a center back, and before that, they were shopping the idea of getting a defenseman because their defense core past really Quinn Hughes is pretty weak. So that kind of trade would be looking at maybe Dylan Cousins and any of our defensemen from like 4 to 7, you can have any of them, and then maybe like a pick, right? I don't know how much they think Elias Pettersson's value is right now, given the problems that he does have. It's kind of seen as a red flag if the players can't just work past that and just play the game. So maybe there's a little bit going on there that would lessen his value, but skills-wise, he is absolutely a number one center. So it's hard to look past the value that he brings as a player. And Thomas Miller says, not for Miller. I'm assuming that you're saying that you would not want to trade for Miller, and I kind of agree with that. Again, I just don't think that that's a realistic outcome for us. All right. We're going to try and keep it relatively short so that you guys can catch the rest of the third period of the Sabres game without me talking over it. So I'm going to briefly go over what we've got coming up, and then I'm going to do that video breakdown of Rasmus Dahlin. So coming up, we have the rest of this game against the Senators up 4-0 at the end of the second now. On Saturday, we have a game at home against the Kraken. And then on Wednesday, we have a game at home against the Hurricanes. If you can finish out this sweep or this week and you get all 6 points, then you're really right there in the race with everyone else. I mean, there's a lot of people at 41, 41, 40, 42, 42. But then you're right back in there. You're at 41 points. Obviously, games in hand factor into that. You're not expecting every team to lose every game, but it does give you just the chance. A lot of these teams are playing at about 500 hockey. So, you're assuming that they at least lose a couple of those games, and then you are right in there with them. So good opportunity for the Sabres. Obviously, they need to, like we've said, they need to win games. And none of this happens if they can't win the games. But at the end of this week, given a couple of wins against, albeit good teams, the Kraken have been struggling this year, but the Hurricanes are still the Hurricanes. Very tough defensive team. You got to find ways to break them down in their own zone, and that's probably through a lot of movement, which the Sabres have had issues with over these past couple of years in their own zone. Just not getting enough movement, not getting the defensemen to move around their own zone. So got to break down the Hurricanes defense, got to put shots on the net. Their goalies have not been the strongest this year, so that's something where maybe you just put a lot on the goaltender and see what you get from there. But you have to play those games. You have to win those games. And then maybe we're talking about do we have a real shot at sliding into this race? All right, now going to transition into looking at some film. So give me a moment as I put this up on the screen. All right. Going to. Perfect. So this is a clip package for Rasmus Dahlin. Notice some of the errors were put in here beforehand. I did take some of these clips from YouTube because it's hard. They don't really have, again, great, like all 32 view that they have for like football. It's just kind of, you take the highlights that they give you with the NHL. So in this first clip, we're going to see Rasmus Dahlin. Oh, shoot. Actually, this is the wrong one. Sorry about that. Here we go. Again, this analysis portion is still in the works. We're still trying to get everything working properly. All right. So when you think of Rasmus Dahlin, the thing that most people have come to mind first is offensive defenseman. It's kind of been his calling card when he came into the league. Like, he's going to put up a bunch of points. He's a smart player in the offensive zone. And one of the things that I think has really helped him in recent years is he talked about it one time where he spent the majority of an offseason just working on his shot to make him kind of a dual threat in the zone, because everyone knew he could pass. Everyone knew he could find soft spots in coverage. But something that's really helped him open up space for himself is just becoming a shot threat. And this first clip is really just showing how good his shot is. So the puck is taken away from the Colorado defenseman. It's thrown to Dahlin in the middle of the ice and just placed perfectly into the corner there. We can see, just run that back one more time. And it goes right top right corner. And there was pressure coming to him relatively quickly. But the farm, he's got a quick release now, and it's accurate. It's powerful. That just makes him a threat from really anywhere on the ice, because everyone already knows in the league that Dahlin is a player who can pass with the best of them. He'll find the soft spots, and he'll make the dishes easy for his own team to finish on. So it's nice now that he can shoot, that the defenders have to respect that aspect of his game as well. Now, something that accompanies becoming a better shooter is that accuracy with the puck, still hitting it as hard as he is. And in this next clip, we'll see it comes up to the point for Rasmus Dahlin. He's got the puck now, and he's just going to slap pass it. I know the quality is a little tough there, but what he's doing here is he's taking a slap shot to Alex Tuch's stick, and it's perfectly placed. For all Alex Tuch has to do is just put his stick on the ice, and then it's tipped into the net. So it's a little fast, but you can kind of see it hit Alex Tuch's stick there. And then another thing that's probably not talked about as much, you've seen this kind of clip a million times if you're a Sabres fan. You have Rasmus Dahlin passing it to Tage Thompson on the power play. And it gets overlooked a lot how good Rasmus Dahlin is at basic passes, because obviously Tage Thompson can hit the puck at 105 miles an hour with pinpoint accuracy. So everyone sees this play, and it's impressive what Thompson did, but Dahlin helps a lot in these plays in subtle ways that you might not think about too much. So we'll see here. It gets passed up to Darlene, and Thompson's already opened up for the one-timer, and we all know where this is going. But Darlene, for the majority of the time, he's looking shot here, right? So shot, and then he turns at the last minute, and he turns his whole body to be able to get enough power on the pass over and also make it so that it's not too wily. It's going to get to exactly where Tage Thompson needs it, and it's going to get there flat so that Tage Thompson can effectively hit this one-timer. And he does for the goal there. But defenders are seeing Darlene drag, and in this moment he's looking shot, right? So you've got two defensemen, two Calgary defenders, and they're clogging up that shot zone. And then you have the third defenseman in front of the net. So that allows Tage Thompson to just be wide open. Neither of those defensemen in the middle are looking to make an active effort to get over to the side there. And then even though it's not the hardest pass in the world, he gets it over there quickly. He gets it over there flat. It makes it incredibly easy for someone to one-time it. And obviously, there's no trigger man on our team better than Tage Thompson at the moment. So easy goal for them. That was kind of the bread and butter of the power play of 2 years ago. So, but again, those sorts of situations aren't possible without Darlene just perfectly setting up Tage Thompson there. Now, another thing that Darlene can do offensively is just really take over a game by himself. When Darlene is feeling it, and even when he's not, like, he's still a very high-end player, but sometimes you can just tell that he's kicked it into another gear. And on this play, I don't even have much to comment over. I just want to show you that when Darlene is feeling it, he can absolutely take over a game. So he just brings it into the zone himself, cuts through three defensemen. And although it's not a goal, I mean, just the ability to control that level of, or to just have that level of puck control, to have that level of awareness going to the zone, just seeing where the seams are. And also that highlight shows that he's able to carry it into the zone himself, which is very helpful for, say, power play opportunities or just creating offense off the rush. Now, when I think of offensive defensemen, especially the modern kind, the thing that stands out to me, and the thing that all elite offensive defensemen, if you're thinking Cale Makar, if you're thinking Quinn Hughes, and if you're thinking Rasmus Dahlin, one of the things that they all do incredibly well is walk the line to extend plays in the offensive zone. So in this instance, you see the arrow above Dahlin's head on the left boards there. He's going to receive the pass from Power. Nothing there, nothing there, nothing there. And this doesn't really open up the way that you'd want to, but because Dahlin is walking the line there and he does it so effectively, it's forcing at least two defensemen up top to be cautious of him, and he gets those two in a line. Again, everyone else is also kind of in a line here, so we don't have any players open for a pass, but this situation that he's created here up front with those two defensemen crossed over each other, in theory, is creating space elsewhere on the ice for another player. But either way, just the ability to extend the play. He doesn't really find anything on this play, but he's holding it in the zone, and then he eventually ends up, as you saw, passing it off to a teammate there. And another similar situation where you're working the line is Dahlin's incredibly effective at pinching. So in this next clip, you see it's a breakout for the Islanders there. It's a little bit failed, but it's still coming up the board. And Dahlin recognizes this, so he steps up and just manages to turn what should have been a breakout for the Islanders into an offensive play for his own team. And again, that ended up being more or less nothing of a play, but just extending the offensive zone time is what makes these elite defensemen, in my opinion, elite. It separates them from maybe people, or maybe defensemen who have good visions and even can rack up a lot of assists through it, where they see the zone very well. They can pass it off, find those soft spots the way that Dahlin still can, but extending plays in the zone always leads to more offense. Even if you don't score off it, like in the last 2 clips, being able to just keep it in the offensive zone is always a good place to be. So similarly to walking the line, Dahlin's incredibly effective at shaking checks and creating space for himself in the neutral zones. This is literally the same exact principle as when he was walking the line just moments ago, but this time he's doing it in the neutral zone just to create a little space for himself. And then, so he just corrals the puck with pressure coming, takes it to the side, and then he can pass it up for a breakout. And look how much space he's created on that side there. This is 5-on-5, so it's not like they're down a man, but now the player on the side there just has all the space in the world and probably will end up passing it again to enter the zone. But just those small little plays that Dahlin makes, just how smart he is, how in control he is with his edges, with his with the puck on his stick, allow him to just extend possession, makes calm plays to break out of the zone, and that really is what drives his offense. Now, he's not only an offensive player, though, and this is the crux of what I think makes him so good. Dahlin is a two-way defenseman. He does both sides of the ice incredibly well. And in this next play, we'll see. This play, the Capitals are breaking out of the zone on a power or off of a power play. So we were on the power play. That's why Dahlin's the only one back. And the guy coming down the wing there is coming out of the box just now. And Dahlin is tired. And it's about to be a 2-on-1. To be honest, this guy probably could have gotten a breakaway. Dahlin isn't the fastest, but he sees a man coming ahead of the next defenseman, so he wants to make it a 2-on-1. Dahlin smartly puts himself in the middle so that the posing forward can't quickly get into the middle for the breakaway. So now Dahlin's taking away any chance of cutting across, so that all Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen has to worry about is just this angle here, or I guess if he wants to go deeper into the zone. And then Dahlin perfectly places himself for that cut in. And the other forward isn't really a threat because Dahlin was still in that middle lane. It's just for him, it's mostly about the intelligence. He's not really the I say he's a two-way defenseman. He doesn't do his defense in the way that a stay-at-home traditional defenseman does, where they hit things and block things, and he's still capable of doing that, but his play is a lot more cerebral than these players, and that's what allows him to thrive and make plays like this. Or in the next instance, we see Sam Reinhart receiving the puck in the middle of the ice, and Dahlin stepping up to pressure him, retreats a little bit in front of the line so that he doesn't get incredibly burnt here. Again, just recognizing that Reinhart kind of has inside leverage if he wants, based on where Dahlin's momentum's going. So you need to back up a little bit here. And then Reinhart tries to push it inside where Dahlin already is. So he kind of looks out a little bit there. Obviously, if Dahlin or Reinhart's probably seeing a bit more cluster on the inside, but if he were faster, maybe that's a just break through the middle. But Dahlin is able to cut him off, and still recognizing that Reinhart kind of has a step on him, Dahlin just calmly pushes it to the corner, and that averts a good break for one of the best goal scorers in the league. And again, that's just attributing to how intelligent he is. Dahlin's not trying to make a play on the body that would take him out of contention because he's a little bit behind Reinhart. He's not trying to obtain possession there, even though maybe he could have reached for it and pulled it in, because he's not sure about, whether or not Reinhart would be able to just step around and take the puck back from him. So he just pushes it into the corner where it's no longer a threat, and he can just go and retrieve it against Reinhart. Another incredibly smart play by him here. We see this was supposed to be a breakout attempt, and it ends up failing near the point. That's why there's some Vegas players rushing back into the zone. And it gets pushed down to the corner. And because there's the rush back into the zone, this middle guy kind of ends up unmarked. You have one guy deep and one guy on the wall with it, leaving basically Dahlin against 3 other players. And here he recognizes guy in the middle first. So he steps out into the slot where the guy in the middle is, because the guy on the wall isn't too much of a threat. And the guy down low is also not too great a threat. But as soon as he steps out to the center, the guy in the slot is getting deeper in on Luukkonen, so he has to step more to the middle, and he's able to effectively break up the play, and he gets it out. Now in his in his defensive zone, if he gets the puck as well, he's very helpful for breakouts because of the amount of time that he can create for himself. In this clip, he's getting to the wall, gets the puck first. There's kind of 3 guys out there applying pressure to the one side. So there's not much of an option to skate it out, and his body is turned in a way where making that bank pass to the guy high in the zone would be a little bit difficult, and it looks like he's pressured. There's a stick there of a Dallas defender. So you'd be throwing it into a contested zone even if you do make it there. So he recognizes this, and he just turns up on the wall, and instantly that 3-man pressure against the wall is broken because he's able to turn it back to his partner, Samuelsson, and Samuelsson is just in the open, ton of space, and they get a clean breakout. Now, on this play, I just want to highlight kind of the evolution of Rasmus Dahlin, because when he came into the league, he was bullied a lot. He was not very physical, but he's evolved his game to add a lot more physicality. So this is on the power play for Montreal, so our penalty kill, and he sees the puck kind of get placed into a tough spot for that defenseman or that forward, where he just kind of drags it into Dahlin's area, and Dahlin just ties up his body completely in neutral ice, which is really hard to do without taking a penalty. Oftentimes you have to take a hold on that to allow that to happen, but he doesn't. He's just too strong for this guy, shoves him down to the ice, and gets the clear on the penalty kill. Again, just kind of that evolution of Dahlin's game that's allowed him to be as good as he is. And then the final clip that I want to show is just a pure effort play. When everything's breaking down in the zone, this is not a guy who's going to give up on a play. This is not a guy who's going to be like, well, it's outside of my range. He's going to give it 110%, and I think that showed on this play here, where blocks the shot in front. It gets pushed around. There's a lot of scrambling, and then that is a goal almost 10 out of 10 times, but Rasmus Dahlin manages to slide back in front and make the block. So that's it for the slides on Rasmus Dahlin. That's a lot of positivity. I do think that, obviously I'm going to be probably most positive about Dahlin on our team. I do think he is our best player as it stands. I think he's the least flawed on our team. One thing that I will always say is that he's not a great straight line skater. So he'll get beat on just like rush plays down the wall. He lets up his fair share of breakaways because he's just not fast enough to catch up with some guys in the league. That doesn't mean he's a bad skater. He's very great on his edges, as you've seen with the walking the line plays. But either way, he's going to get beat occasionally, and I think that's maybe my biggest knock on him. The other thing is that he doesn't always try to make a play on the man in front of the net. He's pretty confident in his hand-eye, and if there's a pass coming out in front, one of the things that I think is maybe not the best of habits, it works out for him a lot because he is very good at it, but if there's a pass coming out to the front of the net, he'll sometimes go for the puck instead, like do a just slap out of the zone, but he can sometimes, as a result, lose the man, and then we end up with a situation in front where you have a man all alone against whoever the goalie is. And that can be a problem. But other than those two things, Dahlin is an incredibly well-rounded player. He's great in all aspects of the ice. He breaks it out for you. He's great with puck retrievals. He's physical. He's smart. And I just think that he's always going to be an effective player to have, and definitely, at least for our team, worth the price tag that we're paying him. More so, at least, than any of the other players currently on the roster, maybe. So that's it for the video breakdown, and that's it for this episode of Sabres Edge. Thank you all so much for watching, tuning in. I know it was a little bit weird. It's a little bit of a different format. We're still going to try and work on making this more smooth when it's just me as I grow into this role. And hopefully we'll see more of Timmy or TJ, and that will add a little bit more banter to the situation. But thank you to all of you who commented, giving me something to engage with. I hope to see you all back next week. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you are always alerted when we are going live. And if you want to stay up to date with us and what's going on with the Sabres, we do have a Discord where we are frequently chatting. So thank you once again, and have a great night.